The story begins with a beautiful and attractive woman named Maniana. She encounters Ri, a character her daughter had mentioned to her, and engages in a fight with him. She acknowledges his skills and praises his abilities. Later, while she's taking a bath, someone deliberately opens the door. Embarrassed, she calls him a naughty boy. However, her fate is soon sealed when Ria kills her. Smiling, she apologizes for being a bad mother before she dies. In the real world, a boy watching the scene smashes his fist on the computer desk, frustrated by Maniana's death. Exhausted, he yells in anger, questioning why such an adorable mother has to die. Suddenly, his phone beeps with a message from the developers of the game he is playing. Excited, he eagerly checks to see if they have accepted his request to create a route where the mothers are saved. However, his excitement quickly turns into frustration when he realizes it is just an announcement for a new event focused on the heroines. In a fit of rage, he smashes his fist against the desk again. The protagonist of this story is an average corporate worker whose main hobby is playing NSFW browser games. He is particularly fond of a suggestive RPG game that features swords, magic, and exotic elements. Despite being an 18 and over game, it is highly praised for its RPG mechanics. The game features heroines with distinct personalities, but what sets it apart is its compelling cast of mother characters. These mothers captivate the hearts of many players, including the protagonist, but unfortunately, they are relegated to sub-heroines with tragic fates. Poisoned, mauled to death by dogs, subjected to cruel treatment by villains, or dying in vain to protect the protagonists and heroines. Such are the grim fates awaiting them. Despite an outcry from fans demanding routes where the mothers survive, the developers continue to ignore their pleas. This neglect does not diminish the game's popularity, but it frustrates the boy who cannot understand the industry's obsession with high school girls. He believes that the mothers would look much cuter in the uniforms that the heroines wear. Disheartened, he turns off his computer, lamenting that both the developers and the game's protagonists forsake the mothers. He muses that if he were the protagonist, he would have done everything in his power to save them. As he heads out for work, he suddenly slips down the stairs. When he opens his eyes, he finds himself inside a Western-style mansion. The surroundings seem eerily familiar. Curious, he inspects a portrait on the wall, and before he can process his thoughts, a gorgeous woman rushes into the room, worry etched on her face. She calls him Demonio and asks if he is all right. Shock washes over him as he recognizes her. She is Rosa Triddle, a character from his favorite game. Realization dawns upon him that he has been reincarnated into the world of the game. However, his excitement quickly turns into dread as he focuses on his new identity, Demonio Triddle. Demonio is a notorious aristocratic villain in the game. Though his magic skills are exceptional, he is arrogant and callous. He considers the protagonist a commoner, an annoyance, and picks fights with him only to be swiftly defeated. Eventually, Demonio succumbs to his own power, spiraling out of control until he meets a grisly demise. Regardless of the route taken, his fate remains unchanged. The boy now realizes that he has finally entered the world of his beloved game, but he is terrified of his inevitable demise. Rosa, his stepmother, approaches him with concern. Her touch is warm and soothing, a stark contrast to what he expected. Rosa is a sub-character who does not appear much in the main story, but is beloved by certain fans. She apologizes for entering without knocking, explaining that she was worried after hearing him scream. However, there is a fearful hesitation in her demeanor. Her face holds a trace of unease. Memories of Demonio's past actions flood his mind. His cruel treatment of Rosa, his deep-seated hatred towards her stemming from the loss of his biological mother. He recalls that Rosa endured his abuse, yet continued to show him motherly affection, even in his final battle with the protagonist. Despite everything, she put her life on the line to protect him. Yet Demonio failed to recognize her love and ultimately stabbed her from behind. In every route of the game, this was her tragic fate. Overwhelmed with guilt, he suddenly grabs Rosa's hands and apologizes profusely. He expresses regret for the way he has treated her, proclaiming that it would be terrible if a scar was left on her face. He calls her Mom Rosa in an attempt to show his sincerity, explaining that his past behavior was merely a rebellious phase. However, as soon as the words leave his lips, he realizes his mistake. Mom Rosa was the affectionate name he used for her in the game. Fearing that he has made things worse, he quickly apologizes again. However, instead of being disturbed, Rosa's eyes well up with emotion. She suddenly embraces him, delighted that he has finally acknowledged her as his mother. She expresses joy at his newfound affection and assures him that they can take their time building their bond as a family. As she walks away, she tells him she looks forward to seeing him again soon. The boy is left dumbfounded by her kindness. He reflects on Rosa's cuteness and warmth, feeling heartbroken that she was doomed to die without ever being acknowledged for her love. He remembers that in the original story, Demonio was the one who ended her life, but now he is in control. If he works hard, he believes he can prevent Rosa's tragic fate. If he has been given this second chance, then he will do what the protagonist never did, save the mothers. The heroines of the game were destined to suffer, but the protagonist always found a way to rescue them. However, the mothers were overlooked, left to perish as tragic figures. Determined, he resolves to change that. To do so, he needs power enough to withstand the powerful foes that stand in his way and to rewrite the course of the game's narrative. He acknowledges that while Demonio was foolish, his natural talent for magic was extraordinary. As a noble, he possesses both money and influence. If he hones his abilities and avoids the villainous path, he has the potential to wield immense strength. With newfound determination, he makes a firm decision. The game's protagonist can save the heroines. He, on the other hand, will devote himself to saving the mothers. Triddle's peacekeeping unit struggles to subdue a massive wild bear. Demonio arrives and commands them to stand down. With an intermediate spell of Black Dance, he swiftly strikes the bear, sending it crashing to the ground. The guards are astonished to witness their lord taking down the beast with a single blow. Meanwhile, Demonio internally muses that he needs to finish this quickly so he can return home and receive Rosa's praise. 3 months have passed since he reincarnated into the villainous noble. At the mansion, the servants are both happy and shocked to see their lord assisting them. They praise him, recognizing that Lord Demonio has transformed into a respectable man. With the current head of the house, Glenn, frequently away from the mansion, Demonio has taken up the responsibilities of acting head. His actions continue to change the perception of those around him. In the royal office, he finalizes a deal with 2 men and hands the contract to Rosa, instructing her to secure it. She respectfully takes it and excuses herself. As she leaves, one of the men, eyeing her ample chest, makes an insinuating remark, questioning Demonio's decision to entrust her with such an important document. Disrespectfully, he suggests that she might run off with his fortune. Laughing, he continues mocking her, stating that she seduced Lord Glenn with her attractive hips. With the same lecherous mindset, the other man adds that her skills as a woman must be extraordinary, expressing a desire to witness them firsthand. Rosa becomes visibly uncomfortable at their crude words. Rosa hails from a fallen noble family and endured severe financial hardships. After marrying into the Glenn family as the second wife, she became the subject of relentless ridicule, often being labeled a gold digger. These insults have deeply affected her. The one responsible for making her the target of such contempt is none other than Demonio himself before he was reincarnated. Fury ignites within him as he slams his fist onto the table. His expression darkens with intense seriousness as he praises Rosa, describing her as a dignified, stunning, and charming woman filled with love. Summoning his aura, he issues a death warning to both men for daring to insult her in his presence. His black aura engulfs them, creating an ominous and ghostly atmosphere. Terrified, they flee, questioning why Lord Demonio, who was supposed to lose his stepmother, is now fiercely defending her. Rosa, however, is concerned. She gently warns Demonio that as the future head of the house, he should not allow his emotions to get the best of him. Innocently, he responds that he acted out of anger because they disrespected her. Touched by his sincerity, Rosa extends her hand and pulls him into a warm embrace. With a teasing smile, she calls him a bad boy and playfully asks what he hopes to achieve by making her so happy. Flattered and comforted, he rests against her soothing chest. His relationship with Rosa has grown remarkably close. He enjoys being near her and wishes he could continue flirting with her forever. However, his greater duty remains unchanged to save all of the mothers in this world. To do so, he must become even stronger. A critical quest lies ahead, one that traditionally leads Demonio to ruin and destruction. The Glenn family treasure quest is a minor subplot that does not significantly affect the main story, but it contains an invaluable reward, an extremely rare weapon that can only be acquired through its completion. If he is to save Rosa and the other mothers, he must obtain this weapon at any cost. Determined, he resolves to do everything in his power to seize it. Determined to acquire a rare weapon, Demonio sprints toward a hidden dungeon. Navigating through its intricate passageways, he first turns right, then left before crushing a statue. Moving ahead, he deliberately leaves another statue untouched and continues along the path. This dungeon appears near the end of the game, but having memorized its layout, he ensures he follows the correct routes to reach its deepest level while avoiding unnecessary encounters with monsters. Despite the frustration it once caused him, his extensive experience playing the game gives him an advantage. Eventually, he arrives at the last gate. Stepping inside, his eyes lock onto the demon's sword, Despina, suspended by heavy chains. This weapon has the capability to exponentially enhance his dark magic. Though rare, it was not particularly useful in the game. Back then, he wielded an all-rounder weapon that bolstered all his magic attributes, but now, Despina is a perfect fit for him. The only obstacle left is the Guardian of the Treasure, a fierce monster that emerges once the sword is taken. Confident in his knowledge of the enemy's attack patterns, Demonio prepares for battle. However, before he can react, the monster strikes with its powerful octopus-like arms, slamming him into the wall. His shadow barrier saves him just in time, but he realizes that his game knowledge alone will not guarantee victory. Unlike in the game, he cannot see an HP bar, making it difficult to gauge his limits. Still, he has made a vow to himself he will protect all the mothers he has come to love in this world. The Guardian's skin is incredibly tough, making it highly resistant to both magical and physical attacks. As he is now, the fight is a bad matchup for him. With the monster clinging to the ceiling, Demonio's attacks barely reach. However, he possesses a strong aptitude for black magic, particularly spells that control shadows. In the game, Demonio was a villainous character with extraordinary magical talent. Though he was once an arrogant and ruthless man, his ability to manipulate magic was unrivaled. Now he intends to use that talent for good. As the Guardian finishes its tentacle attack, it opens its mouth to launch a poison strike. This is Demonio's only chance to end the battle. Summoning all his magic, he casts Pinpoint Black Lance, aiming directly into the creature's mouth. The monster crashes from the ceiling, revealing its sole weakness, an eye hidden inside its mouth. Using precise mana control, Demonio compresses his energy into an extremely long and narrow strip, increasing both its speed and piercing power. The strike lands with lethal accuracy, and the Guardian collapses, defeated. With the dungeon cleared and the powerful weapon Despena now in his possession, he has taken yet another step towards saving the mothers of this world. Filled with determination, he silently calls out for his beloved mama to wait for him. Suddenly, a beautiful girl appears, hovering in the air. She questions what he means by mama. Smiling, she expresses curiosity about the situation, stating that it has been a long time since her seal was broken. However, she finds it hard to believe that her new master is nothing more than a mama's boy. Demonio looks up at her in surprise, wondering who this mysterious girl is. After successfully clearing the dungeon, Demonio sits in his room within the Treadell mansion, contemplating his recent acquisition. He acknowledges that obtaining the demon's sword, Death Pana, without any serious injuries is a significant achievement. However, he certainly did not expect an additional complication to come along with it. Brushing off the thought, he decides to take a shower to clear his mind. As he walks towards the shower room and opens the door, he is met with an unexpected sight: Rosa in the midst of undressing. Both freeze in shock, their gazes locked for a brief moment. Rosa, flustered, immediately attempts to cover her body with her arms, while Demonio quickly retreats, closing the door behind him. Later that evening, they meet at the dining table. Demonio thanks her for the meal, and after an awkward pause, he apologizes for the earlier incident. Rosa, however, dismisses his worries with a gentle smile, insisting that she should have locked the door. Despite the situation, she takes responsibility, apologizing for showing him something so unseemly. Demonio, charmed by her modesty, muses about her endearing nature. Unlike younger heroines who might react angrily or embarrassedly, Rosa humbly lowers herself, making him admire her even more. Her warm, motherly nature is what makes the moms of this world so special to him. Rosa, sensing his thoughts, self-deprecating comments that her body must not be much to look at, given that she is an older woman. Demonio, taken aback, is unable to comprehend how she could even think that. He knows deep down that she is fishing for a compliment, though in the most innocent way. Everything about her is precious. Determined, he tells her outright that she is far from being old and is even more beautiful than most younger women. Rosa, surprised and pleased, playfully calls him a sweet talker. Her gaze soon shifts to the sword resting behind him. She recognizes it immediately and expresses her astonishment that Demonio was able to retrieve it alone. She recalls hearing about the dungeon and how it was said to be incredibly dangerous. She then identifies the weapon as the infamous demon's sword, Death Pana. According to legend, it is a cursed weapon imbued with dark magic, its power so overwhelming that no one has been able to wield it. A former head of the Triddle family had sealed it away generations ago to prevent its malevolent influence from spreading. Demonio listens to her words carefully and notes that her explanation matches exactly with the lore in the game. However, Rosa's concerned expression causes him to pause. She warns him to be cautious, mentioning a fable associated with the sword, one that claims Death Pana possesses a will of its own and brings ruin to any master it despises. Though momentarily unsettled, Demonio quickly dismisses her worries, reassuring her that it is just a sword and that such myths are exaggerated. Despite his words, he cannot ignore the appearance of the mysterious girl who emerged from the weapon earlier. Later, he approaches the girl in question, bringing her cookies as a peace offering. She eagerly devours them, proclaiming them delicious. Demonio watches her curiously, still trying to wrap his head around the fact that a young girl has manifested from Death Pana. She was never present in the game, and her existence was only vaguely referenced in supplementary materials. He recalls reading about a cursed soul but had assumed it was just an ominous text meant for world building. Now faced with the reality of her presence, he realizes that he cannot rely solely on his game knowledge. This experience serves as a lesson for him. He must approach everything with fresh eyes and not take anything for granted. When he asks for her name, she simply shrugs and tells him she does not have one, offering him the opportunity to name her. After a brief thought, he decides to call her Pina, a shortened version of Death Pina. Pleased with the name, she smirks and teasingly calls him a mama's boy. She expresses surprise that her new master is so devoted to mothers. Demonio, unbothered by her taunt, insists that he is not a mama's boy. Pina, unconvinced, points out that his love for moms is borderline obsessive. Demonio, without hesitation, corrects her. His love for mothers is not something as shallow as a mere complex. It is a defining characteristic of his being. It is something he takes pride in, something he cherishes. Pina stares at him in stunned silence, struggling to comprehend his unwavering conviction. Curious, she questions what he has been busying himself with. Demonio, shifting through his belongings, states that it is time for him to start making moves behind the scenes. He is currently 15 years old, meaning that in 1 year he will officially become a noble and enroll in the Magic Academy. Once the main story begins, he will encounter many more mothers who need saving. However, there is one mother who is an exception. She is one of the strongest characters in the game and one of the most popular heroines among fans. Unlike other mothers who suffer unfortunate but minor fates, her worst route is nothing short of horrifying. If he does not act now, he will lose his only opportunity to save her before the game's main story unfolds. Determined, Demonio dons a mask, fully aware of the challenge ahead. He is prepared to do whatever it takes to ensure that Mama Mania does not meet the tragic fate of being broken and trained into submission. He will change her destiny, no matter the cost. Maniana Velhaven, the renowned Witch of Thunder, is in grave danger. Once an S-rank adventurer and one of the strongest pillars of the Royal Knight Order, she has now been reduced to a captive in the hands of lowly bandits. She and her daughter, Monica, had only appeared briefly in the prologue of the game, their presence fleeting yet impactful. Maniana was regarded as one of the strongest figures outside the main storyline, a powerful warrior whose beauty and strength captivated the fandom. He recalls the way she playfully teased the protagonist in the game, exuding charm and confidence. She had become an immensely popular character despite her limited screen time. However, midway through the game, she suddenly disappeared without a trace. It was a mystery that had frustrated him in his past life, an event that unfolded into a tragedy only much later in the story. Now he knows exactly where she is trapped in a dungeon in the northern part of Triddle's land, a prisoner of ruthless men who plan to break her will. Above the dungeon, Pina silently observes, hovering in the air. Below her, 3 guards stand at the entrance, oblivious to her presence. One of them chuckles, making crude remarks about their captive. He expresses frustration at being left out while their bosses enjoy themselves first. His companion reassures him, reminding him that their turn will come later, as promised. The conversation is revolting, confirming Demonio's worst fears. Pina, disgusted by what she has heard, wastes no time returning to Demonio. She reports what she has seen, detailing the presence of 4 guards at the front gate. She also reveals the existence of a hidden passage beneath the ruins, providing an alternative route inside. Her reconnaissance is invaluable. Demonio, though unsurprised by this information, acknowledges her efforts with genuine praise. Hearing his approval, Pina grins, clearly enjoying the recognition. She playfully demands more gratitude, reveling in the attention. However, Demonio remains focused. The situation is unfolding exactly as he had expected. Maniana has fallen into the hands of these bandits, just as the game had dictated. But this time, he refuses to let the worst come to pass. Pina, ever perceptive, questions his determination. She remarks on his strange obsession with saving this particular woman, linking it to his frequent talk about his past life. To her, is also peculiar yet intriguing. She expresses amusement at having been bound to such an unusual master. Demonio confirms through several experiments that Pina is only visible to him. This realization strengthens his resolve. She can be his unseen ally, a hidden force aiding him from the shadows. He considers the best course of action and decides that keeping her in the dark would be foolish. If she is to be of true use, she must know everything. He reveals the truth to her, speaking of his past life and the vast knowledge he possesses from the game. He explains the tragic fate awaiting Maniana Velhaven, the Witch of Thunder, should he fail to intervene. Pina listens with a curious expression, absorbing the weight of his words. The revelation amuses her. She declares that this Maniana woman is destined to become nothing more than the bandit's plaything. Yet the intensity in Demonio's eyes does not waver. He knows what awaits her if he does nothing. Her complete and utter ruin, her transformation into a broken puppet under the control of his enemies. Pina, intrigued by his unwavering determination, questions whether he truly wishes to save her. His answer is immediate. Yes, Maniana's fate in the game had haunted him. She vanished without explanation mid-game, only to reappear in the final act, no longer the proud warrior she once was, but a hollow shell of her former self. When the protagonist, Rie, finally finds her, she has already been reduced to a tool for his enemies. Her mind and body bear the marks of her suffering, and the insignia of the enemy's dark magic is permanently engraved into her flesh. No longer herself, she fights against the protagonist, fully aligned with their foes. In the end, Rie is left with no choice. He defeats her, breaking the last chains binding her to the enemy, but the price is steep. As she regains her senses, she uses her final moments to speak to her daughter, Monica, before breathing her last. Monica, left devastated by the loss of her mother, seeks comfort in Rie's arms before the story pushes forward, leaving tragedy in its wake. Demonio, in his past life, had raged against this outcome. He had pleaded with the game's developers, hoping for an alternate route, a way to save her, but his wishes had gone unanswered. There had been no salvation for Maniana Velheven. Now, however, he stands in a world where he has the power to alter fate. The main story has yet to begin, and he refuses to let history repeat itself. This is his chance, his perfect opportunity to change everything. He prepares for the assault, donning a mask to conceal his identity. This is not a mission where he seeks recognition or reward. His only goal is to rescue Maniana and leave before anyone realizes what has happened. As he moves swiftly toward the hideout, Pena questions his decision to remain anonymous. She wonders if he will truly walk away without asking for anything in return. Demonio is resolute. Maniana's happiness is all that matters to him. Whether she knows who saved her or not is irrelevant. Pena stares at him, momentarily speechless. His words are gallant, even noble, yet something about his devotion unsettles her. She mutters that he is starting to creep her out. Hiding behind a bush, Demonio observes the hideout's entrance. Just as Pena had reported, 4 bandits stand guard. Without hesitation, he acts. He dashes forward, casting a dark magic spell, Black Slave. The bandits freeze, unable to move. Their bodies refuse to obey them, and before they can comprehend their fate, Demonio eliminates them in swift, precise strikes. Pena watches from above, impressed yet slightly unnerved. The magic he wields is basic in theory, yet his execution is on a completely different level. The way he channels magic through his body for enhancement is extraordinary, and he is still just a teenager. His power is immense, his efficiency terrifying. She acknowledges his skill, offering him praise. Demonio remains indifferent. He dismisses the defeated guards as nothing more than low-tier lackeys, mere obstacles in his way. His true objective lies ahead. Without wasting any more time, he moves toward the underground facility. Inside the hideout, the bandit leader looms over Maniana. He speaks with a mocking admiration, remarking on her perfectly sculpted figure. Maniana, bound in heavy chains, remains silent. In the underground facility, Pena questions how Maniana, known for her exceptional combat skills, could have been captured by mere bandits. Demonio explains that those who laid the trap and captured her were actually high-ranking executives of the enemy faction. However, they chose to leave the degradation and abuse to their lowly subordinates because that was how it was meant to play out. He reveals that the main writer of Memafan, Onikichi Ujima, has a twisted preference for seeing noble women like Maniana defiled by despicable, low-ranking criminals. Demonio remarks that it is simply the writer's perverse tastes shaping the events. Meanwhile, Maniana attempts to use her magic but finds it completely ineffective. She quickly realizes that she has been rendered powerless. A bandit smugly confirms her suspicion, explaining that the incantation cast from her neck choker is specifically designed to suppress her magic. With it in place, she cannot strengthen her body or use any of her abilities. He mocks her, belittling her as nothing more than a well-endowed mature woman, and laughs at her helplessness. Another bandit joins in, relishing the situation and making crude remarks about her. He speculates that she might even be a mother with children, yet he or she is completely at their mercy. His companion responds that they have been given free rein to do whatever they want with her as long as she remains in one piece. They joke among themselves, eager to exploit her vulnerability. Maniana, unable to do anything, internally apologizes to her daughter, Monica. She laments that she has failed as a mother. She had always strived to be strong, to become even more powerful for the sake of her late husband, and to protect her daughter from harm. Despite facing severe discrimination as a former commoner, enduring constant ridicule and prejudice from the royal knights, she had pushed forward. She had overcome every challenge with her skills, standing her ground for Monica's sake, enduring humiliation and unreasonable treatment without ever showing weakness. She had done everything in her power to be a proper mother. Yet now she finds herself powerless, about to be violated by these lowly criminals. She feels the crushing weight of her failure and silently begs for her daughter's forgiveness. As one of the bandits reaches out to grope her chest, Demonio suddenly intervenes, slashing the bandit's hand with his aura. The man recoils in agony and his companion yells in shock. Without hesitation, Demonio strikes again, knocking the second bandit to the ground. The remaining one panics and attempts to flee, carrying the futile with him. However, Demonio swiftly chases him down and uses his aura to send him sprawling to the floor. Terrified, the bandit desperately insists that they have done nothing wrong. He claims that their higher-ups had given them permission to do whatever they wanted with Maniana. In his desperation, he reveals the specificity of the futile, pleading for his life. Pina, observing the scene, notices something peculiar about Demonio's demeanor. He sees a flicker of something in his expression, as though he had entertained the idea of taking advantage of Maniana himself. However, Demonio promptly attacks the fallen bandit, striking him down and calling him an idiot. Pina, still curious, questions whether Demonio had truly been unaffected by the offer, but Demonio, his face now blank, denies it without hesitation.